Hello, my name is Hallmark, and I am the City Secretary for the City of Rowlett. In my capacity as the staff liaison to the Charter Review Commission, I would like to present you with the recommendations from the Commission and the resulting propositions that will appear on the ballot for the May 1st special election. I'll explain the process for amending the Charter, areas of review, and the resulting recommended propositions. I will also direct you to resources that can provide additional details. According to the Home Rule Charter, the governing document of the city, much like the Constitution, amendments can be voted upon no more often than every 2 years. The City Council shall appoint a Charter Review Commission at least every 5 years, provide their scope of review, and then determine whether to have an election for any proposed changes. These are the Commission members appointed by Council in June of last year. The Commission began meeting in August and presented their recommendations to Council on January 5th. After further Council review, consensus was reached for the ballot items on January 19th. While these were the key focus areas, the Charter was reviewed in its entirety. With their scope outlined, the Commission immediately got to the business of their review. Over the course of the next 4 months, subcommittees reported on their designated topics, received input from Judge Liston regarding legislative changes and proposed updates, received input from the City Attorney regarding any legal issues, and the Commission finalized their recommendations for presentation to the City Council. Stricken through text will be removed and underlined text will be added. Proposition A proposes to adopt term limits of 18 years for service on the City Council. Current Charter language limits service on the Council to no more than 2 consecutive 3-year terms as mayor and no more than 2 consecutive 3-year terms as council member. This means that a person could serve 6 years as council member, then serve 6 years as mayor, then serve 6 years as council member, and so on for perpetuity. It also allows a person to sit out for a year and then restart the 6-year term limits. The proposed change creates a term limit of no more than 9 years consecutively or in total as mayor, and no more than 9 years consecutively or in total as a council member, for a total of 18 years. Proposition B is proposing an increase to the amount that the mayor and council members would receive each month, changing the mayor's compensation from $500 to $750 and council members from $300 to $450. The last time there was an increase was with the approval of Proposition 3 in the May 2016 Charter amendments. Proposition C proposes that the word may be changed to shall in order to require the appointment of a city auditor rather than optional as it is currently written. It also removes the requirement that this appointment be made by ordinance. Current process for council-appointed positions is not by ordinance. Proposition D proposes that social media be added to the Code of Ethics section of the Charter. As a side note, City Council recently updated the Code of Ordinances ethics policy to include the use of social media. This proposed update to the Charter would require its inclusion. The next 2 propositions deal solely with the municipal court and its operations, which brings the Charter language in line with current state law. Proposition E proposes the inclusion of an endnote regarding the legislative designation of the court's name, referencing a specific section of the Charter regarding term appointments of the judges, providing for civil and concurrent jurisdiction, and moving the appointment of court staff under the authority of the presiding judge from the city manager. This change has already been made administratively in keeping with state law. And these are the actual changes, the insertion of the endnote, and the renumbering of subsequent notes. This shows the reference to the specific section of the Charter and the addition of concurrent jurisdiction. While civil jurisdiction is pretty clear, concurrent jurisdiction is jurisdiction that is shared by different courts. For example, if a Rowlett police officer writes a ticket on Interstate 30 or on State Highway 66 or Lakeview Parkway, it allows the Municipal Court of Rowlett to enforce it. Because the road is not owned by the city, without concurrent jurisdiction, shared jurisdiction with the state, the city would not be able to enforce the ticket. This shows the appointment of staff by the chief judge rather than the city manager. Proposition F proposes removing the specificity of 2-year terms for the chief and alternate or associate judges, but does not restrict the ability of the City Council to make those appointments in accordance with state law. And this text shows how the charter would read if approved. This also moves the last sentence up into the paragraph for ease of reading. This section cleans up the language and keeping in line with state law. These are the topics that were reviewed with a recommendation from the Commission to make no changes at this time. In looking at governance districts, the Commission carefully considered how differing areas of the city might be represented. Currently, each council member is, in effect, accountable to every citizen in Rowlett. Ultimately, the Commission arrived at a couple of key concerns. By developing zones, there was concern with politics negatively impacting residents, and in particular, a quid pro quo attitude where deals might be made in the interest of a particular district. Additionally, there was concern about the lack of candidates overall. During the last election, there were only 4 candidates for the 3 open seats. Given this limited candidate pool, certain districts might go unrepresented or be poorly represented. As a result, the Charter Review Commission recommended no change to the current charter regarding governance zoning. The Commission also considered whether the local elections should be moved to coincide with the November general election. Ultimately, it was decided to make a recommendation to not change the current timing of the local elections. The reasoning for this recommendation stems from the past election in November. What was observed was that the turnout was over 10 times higher than a typical Rowlett election. While those are numbers that we would like to see at all of our elections, the reality is that additional turnout at a general election does not necessarily mean that voters are educated about the local election itself. The Charter does provide for administrative amendments in Section 12.04 to amend statutory or state law references, to amend, alter, or reformat provisions, such as corrections, but absolutely no substantive changes without voter approval. This administrative amendment procedure was approved by 83% of the voters as Proposition 3 in the 2013 Charter Amendment election. These changes will be brought forward to City Council at a later date for administrative amendment. Keeping in line with state law, changing the specific date reference for candidacy of the mayor and council members, changes the language for the runoff election in keeping line with state law, and removing an extra word to make the sentence more cohesive. And this is where you can find more information. The Charter Review Commission members visited with all the other boards and commissions, providing this information and helping to spread the word and get out the vote. Information regarding the May 1st election can be found on the city's website, rowlett.com, and your opportunity to make a choice begins April 19th with the start of early voting. Thank you for taking the time to review this information and become an informed voter. If you have any questions about the information provided, you may send them to Laura Hallmark, City Secretary, at lhallmark@rowlett.com. The Commission appreciates your time and asks that you share this information with other Rowlett residents and encourage them to make their voice heard and vote.